The jungle was dense, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Every breath tasted of rain and old stone. It had been days since they had last seen the sun, swallowed by the towering canopy overhead. Somewhere ahead, buried, beneath centuries of vines and forgotten history, lay their destination, the temple that shouldn't exist.
We move together. No one wanders off.
Professor Elias Vance led the team forward, machete in hand, cutting through the last stretch of tangled roots. His boots sank into the damp earth as he pushed ahead. Behind him, 3 others followed in his wake. Dr. Sarah Holt, archaeologist, walking cautiously, eyes scanning every inch of their surroundings for signs of ancient structures. Corporal Ryan Dorn, former military, gripping his rifle out of habit, though no enemy was expected here. Daniel Carr, cameraman, recording everything for documentation or for proof that they weren't losing their minds. They had followed fragmented maps and whispered legends, tracing their way through dense jungle terrain. The locals refused to guide them. No one who entered these ruins ever returned. Yet here they were.
I don't understand. We should have seen ruins by now. There's nothing here.
The legends speak of a place hidden by time itself. If it exists, it won't be easy to find.
A few more steps and the ground sloped downward. As the brush thinned, an immense shadow emerged from the jungle, an ancient temple, untouched by time. Towering stone pillars rose from the earth, wrapped in vines that slithered through the cracks. The structure should have been a ruin, eroded by centuries of wind and rain, but it wasn't. The walls were intact. The entrance stood open, a dark, waiting void at the temple's heart.
Jesus, it's real.
Then Sarah saw something carved into the doorway, etched into the stone as if waiting for them. She stepped closer, brushing aside the moss and dirt covering the markings. Her fingers trembled as she read the inscription aloud.
Elias Vance, Sarah Holt, Ryan Dorn, Daniel Carr.
Their names.
What kind of joke is this?
It's not a joke.
No one spoke. The only sound was the whisper of the wind through the trees, rustling the jungle leaves like unseen hands shifting through pages of time. Then, from within the temple's darkened entrance, a sound, a voice. Their own voices. The jungle seemed to retreat as they stepped closer to the temple. The air inside the stone archway felt colder, unnatural, as if it belonged to another world entirely. The sound that had stopped them in their tracks, their own voices, echoing from the darkness beyond, had faded, yet the weight of it remained, pressing down on them like unseen hands.
We record everything. We stay together. And if anything feels wrong, we turn back.
It already feels wrong, Elias.
Despite her words, Sarah was the first to step forward. Her boots touched the ancient stone floor of the entrance, and for a moment, it was as if she had stepped through time itself. Inside, the walls stretched high, carved with figures locked, in frozen motion. Their shapes were humanoid, but their faces were wrong, distorted, stretched. Elias ran his fingers along the carvings. The stone was smooth, too smooth, as if time had never touched it.
If this place is ancient, why does it look new?
I don't know, but I don't like it.
They moved further in, past towering pillars covered in strange symbols that pulsed faintly when touched. Sarah stopped, staring at the engravings.
These symbols, they're a timeline.
A timeline of what?
Sarah traced a section of the wall, her fingers brushing against a scene of 4 figures standing at the entrance of the temple. Figures that looked exactly like them. She inhaled sharply, stepping back.
That's us.
Daniel raised his camera, recording everything, his hands unsteady.
We need to leave.
Agreed.
No, we came to understand this place. We can't leave until we do.
A sudden gust of wind blew through the corridor, but there was no wind. Then, the voice returned. Not just any voice. Elias's voice. We record everything. We stay together. And if anything feels wrong, we turn back. The exact words Elias had spoken minutes ago.
Tell me someone else just heard that.
They did. The words didn't come from Elias, they came from deep within the temple. Then, a second voice joined it.
It already feels wrong, Elias.
That's us.
Then, the carvings on the wall changed. The figures moved. One of them was missing. Elias turned sharply. Daniel was gone. The silence after Daniel's disappearance was deafening. One moment, he had been right there, filming the carvings. The next, he was gone. No sound, no movement, not even a trace of his presence remained. Elias took a step forward, scanning the corridor ahead, but there was nowhere Daniel could have gone.
Daniel, say something.
Nothing. Sarah turned back toward the carvings. The four figures had changed. Daniel's figure was missing, and in the blank space where he had been, there was now an inscription. Sarah swallowed hard and whispered the words aloud.
The ones who step beyond the echo do not return.
Ryan's grip tightened on his rifle as he scanned the shadows.
I don't like this, Vance. We need to move. We need to leave. Now.
And go where? The entrance is behind us and Daniel disappeared right in front of us. If there's a way out, we need to understand what's happening first.
Understanding it won't stop it from happening again.
Then the whispering started. Not one whisper. Hundreds. Faint, layered voices swirling around them, speaking in a language they didn't recognize, except for one voice that stood out. Daniel's.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
The words came from everywhere and nowhere. Elias turned in circles, his flashlight beam slicing through the corridor, but there was no sign of him. Sarah pressed her back against the cold stone wall, her breath unsteady.
Daniel, where are you?
I don't know. It's not the same. I can see you, but you can't see me.
What the hell does that mean?
I think I stepped beyond the echo.
Elias closed his eyes, thinking fast. The temple wasn't just old. It was outside of time. It wasn't just showing the past. It was shifting who was in it. If Daniel had vanished, but his voice remained, was he trapped in another version of the same moment? And if that was true, were they next? Sarah stepped forward, her voice urgent.
Daniel, listen to me. Can you see the carvings? Are they changing?
Yes, I see you. And I see another version of you. But she's older.
Sarah's blood ran cold. Ryan turned to Elias.
We're getting out of here. I don't care how, but we're leaving before this place swallows all of us.
If we leave now, we leave Daniel behind.
Elias, I think I've been here before.
The whispering voices grew louder, overlapping in chaotic echoes. The carvings shifted again. Now 3 figures remained. One of them, Elias, was missing, and next to it, a new inscription. Sarah barely had time to read it before the ground beneath them trembled. Daniel's voice broke through the silence, layered over itself, as if he was speaking from different moments in time. Sarah turned sharply, her breath catching.
Daniel, how? Where are you?
Still here, just not in the same way. I see you. I see another version of you too. One where you already left.
That's impossible.
Impossible things are happening, Ryan. Do you want to live or do you want to argue?
Elias pressed a hand against the wall, studying the carvings. If the temple could predict who would vanish, then it was following some kind of pattern. A pattern could be broken.
Daniel, tell me what you see. What happens next?
Silence. Then Daniel's voice dropped into a whisper.
I see you disappear, and then I don't see you again.
No, that's not happening. We stop it. We pull him back.
Sarah, you already tried, and in the version I see, you failed.
The whispers swelled again, louder, suffocating, pulling at the edges of reality. Then, a voice that did not belong to them, ancient, broken, layered. You were always here. The walls shook. The inscription beneath Elias's missing figure burned into stone. Ryan grabbed Elias by the arm.
You're not going anywhere.
But Elias was already fading. He could feel it, like his body wasn't fully real anymore, like he had already left. And yet, somehow, he was still here.
I think I was always supposed to disappear.
Sarah clenched her fists.
Then we change what's supposed to happen.
The only problem was, what if it was already too late? The ground rumbled beneath their feet, dust cascading from the high stone ceiling. The carvings had changed again. Daniel was gone. And now, Elias's figure had vanished from the wall. Sarah ran her fingers over the freshly carved inscription beneath the missing figure, her voice barely above a whisper.
The ones who speak their names to the past will walk into the silence.
What the hell does that mean?
It means I'm next.
The air grew heavier. The corridor felt longer than before, stretching into impossible distances. The temple was shifting. Reality was breaking apart. Ryan gritted his teeth, his grip tightening on his rifle.
No, we're done with this. No more standing around reading warnings like we're in a damn storybook. We get out of here now.
Ryan, look around you. Do you think this place is going to just let us leave?
It's rewriting us, one by one.
You can still stop it.
Elias stood motionless, his body flickering like a mirage on the edge of existence. Ryan still had a grip on his arm, but it felt wrong, as if his fingers were slipping through something that was no longer fully there. The temple's walls pulsed, shifting as if they were alive, and then the whispering stopped.
You have to go now.
Go where? We can't leave without you, and we sure as hell can't leave without Elias.
You don't get it. There is no without me. I was never meant to leave.
Neither was I.
The carving shifted again. Elias was already gone from the stone. Now a new inscription appeared. Sarah read it aloud, her voice unsteady.
The ones who try to change the path will walk it twice.
Ryan scowled.
Enough of this cryptic bullshit. We're walking out of here. All of us.
Elias exhaled slowly. He could feel himself unraveling, but he wasn't just vanishing. He was being moved, pulled somewhere else. Sarah's eyes darted between the inscriptions, the carvings, the flickering light along the walls. And suddenly, she understood.
This place isn't killing us.
Ryan gave her a sharp look.
Then what the hell is it doing?
Sarah swallowed hard.
It's replacing us.
Elias looked at Sarah, realization sinking in. The figures on the wall, they weren't predictions, they were corrections. Every time someone disappeared, another version of them had already stepped forward to take their place. There was no escaping. The temple, because they had already left before, they just didn't remember.
Sarah, if you don't go now, you'll start over.
The temple rumbled, Elias let go, and just like that, he was gone. Ryan frowned.
What?
Sarah exhaled.
We don't look back.
They ran, through the twisting corridors, past the shifting walls, through the endless whispers that begged them to turn around. They didn't. The moment they crossed the temple's threshold, the air around them shattered like glass. The jungle was gone. The sky was different, and behind them, there was no temple, only trees, as if it had never existed at all. Elias was gone. Not dead, not vanished, just somewhere else. The temple had taken him. Sarah and Ryan stood frozen, staring at the empty space where he had been, and yet deep inside, something felt wrong, because it wasn't just Elias who was missing. Something about themselves had changed too.
We're getting out now. And go where? What if this place has already changed us?
It has.
Daniel's voice was still there, drifting through the air like an echo that refused to fade.
Daniel, we can still pull you out.
Sarah, do you remember how we got here?
Sarah frowned. Of course she remembered. They had entered the jungle, followed the old maps, discovered the ruins. But the moment she tried to think further back, her mind blurred. The flight, the briefing, the decision to come here. It was missing, like it had been erased.
Ryan!
Ryan exhaled sharply, pressing a hand to his forehead.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Sarah turned to the carvings, fingers trembling. The wall had changed again. Now there were only two figures left, hers and Ryan's. Beneath them, the inscription had shifted. She read it out loud, her voice barely above a whisper.
The ones who remain must remember, or they will return.
Ryan stepped back.
No, screw that. We're breaking this damn thing.
He raised his rifle and fired at the carvings. The bullet struck the wall and vanished, not ricocheted, not shattered, just ceased to exist. And suddenly, Sarah understood. She turned to Ryan, eyes wide.
We weren't the first ones here.
Ryan clenched his jaw.
We knew that.
Sarah shook her head.
No. I mean we, Ryan, us.
Ryan's breathing slowed.
We didn't just get here. We've been here before.
The carvings flickered, shapes shifting in and out of reality. Sarah closed her eyes, forcing herself to remember. There was another version of them, somewhere in time, walking into this temple for the first time. And another. And another. The temple didn't just consume people, it reset them. If they didn't break free now, they wouldn't die. They would forget and start all over again. Ryan grabbed her arm.
Tell me how we stop it.
Sarah looked at the wall one last time. Their names, their past, their future, all written in stone.
We leave, but we do one thing first.